Heather Hendrickson, your host on Heather's Most Precious. I'm a fanatic of family, faith, friendships, and people. My hope is that this podcast puts a sparkle in your day and a smile on your face. Welcome to Heather's Most Precious. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Heather's Most Precious. I am so glad that you've joined us today. I cannot wait for you to hear from our guest, Barry Kamrath, today. He is a wealth of knowledge, is doing a lot, wears a lot of different hats, and is going to share with us an organization that has been created, a nonprofit that is super near and dear to his heart. So make sure you stick around so that you can hear all of the good that is happening within our community with this nonprofit and how it was started. Barry, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Heather, for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Are you really feeling good?
Yeah, I feel great.
Yay! This is exciting.
I'm excited for sure.
Now, I know you don't live here. Did you have to drive up today?
I did, but
Okay.
I live in Marietta, Georgia, which is just a little under 2 hours away, but I work in Chattanooga at UTC, and I come up. I work online primarily, but I also play in a few musical groups here in Chattanooga, and I kind of did a twofer. So we've got the podcast today, and then I go right to a rehearsal after this. So
get it all done at the same time.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. So UTC, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. So you are primarily online. Have you always taught?
So I've had an interesting career trajectory. I went to college in Wisconsin. I'm originally from Wisconsin.
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Yeah.
You know, we can talk about my experience of Green Bay Packers Fan of the Year later if you want
my
to, because I
goodness, how
absolutely
amazing.
will share that story.
Okay.
But I went to school to be a band director. I have an older brother who was a band director, and I'm quite a bit younger than him, and I saw him growing up and thought that looked like a great experience. So I originally graduated from college, became a band director at a high school and then a middle school, and I did 10 years as a band director, and I did some playing. I'm a trumpet player also, and I did some playing on the side. And then from there, I made the decision to move into school administration, and I was a middle school band director for 14 years in beautiful Bloomer, Wisconsin. And it's kind of an interesting, it's all kind of interconnected. I was a middle school principal, and I was focusing on becoming a superintendent. Okay. And in this district where I was, the current superintendent was planning on retiring, and the school board was kind of grooming me to be the next superintendent. I was going to some of the meetings and things like that. But also on the side, I was doing some adjunct teaching for some different universities in their educational leadership programs, kind of on Saturdays, teaching adjunct. And one day I came home from teaching, and my son, who was in high school at the time, he's 29 now, and he said to me, Dad, when you talk about being a superintendent, you sound anxious and nervous and, wow. And he said, when you come home from teaching, you talk energized, you talk more quickly, and you're animated. He just said, have you ever thought about a career change? Wow. And at first I was like, well, shut up. You're a kid. What do you know? Right. You don't know anything. And actually, it turns out that I'm going to turn back the pages a little bit. And in 2009, I took my children, my two sons and my daughter, and we used to do this thing called geocaching. And what geocaching is basically people hide things in different locations on the planet. And then you use a website and you use the GPS coordinates and you try and find these things that they've hidden, right?
Really?
And so we set up as a family a goal. We wanted to do a geocache in all 50 states. And that was in 2009. And so on a break from school that year, the four of us took a trip where we flew down from Minneapolis to Atlanta. We got a geocache in Atlanta. Then we drove to Birmingham, Alabama. We did one there. And then from Birmingham, we drove up to Chattanooga, and we did one in Chattanooga. Okay. And of course, we went to the Hunter Museum of Art, and we saw all the sites in Chattanooga, and we went home. And later I said to myself, I don't know if I ever want to live anywhere else, but if I ever decide to move somewhere, it'll be Chattanooga, Tennessee, right? So fast forward again, that day that my son said to me, you know, Dad, maybe you ought to consider a career change and be a college professor. And I said, well, let's just go and look and see what's out there. And the very first job opening that I saw was UT Chattanooga.
Oh, wow.
I know. And
my goodness, faith.
I know. If
That's
God speaks,
amazing.
he
100%.
sometimes speaks directly.
100%.
And he just said, here. And so I called that day and they said, well, the deadline is today, but if you can get me your materials by Monday, we'll consider you. And 11 years later, here I am in my 11th year at UT Chattanooga.
Amazing.
So it all worked out perfectly.
What a gift.
Yeah, for sure. And so I teach in the Educational Leadership Program. I'm the director of that program. It's a graduate program. It's all online. And basically we train people to be leaders in schools. So positions like principals or instructional coaches, department heads, just people who want to lead in schools.
Have you found that this is a better fit?
Oh, it's... I can't even believe they pay me to do it.
Right.
That's what I can't believe they pay me to do this. So I get to work with dedicated individuals who have decided they want to be leaders in schools, and they're coming to be part of this program. And I get to work with them on a regular basis. And it's so, it's so rewarding because I feel like I'm helping to prepare the next generation of leaders in our school. So my son was right. I mean, I don't know if he'll listen to this podcast. If he is, he's going to say, I told you so, but he did. He was 100% right.
And I think there's an underlying story there, right? I think so often as parents, it's so easy to look at our kids as they maybe have some kind of wisdom that they're trying to share, or they have an idea or something, right? Some kind of insight, but yet automatically it's shunned away.
Right.
Oh, no, how could you, right? You haven't lived enough life.
Right.
What an amazing thing that your heart posture was open so that you could allow that in. And it wasn't oh yeah, you're right. It was maybe, right?
Let's take a look at this.
And I think that's the confidence that you instilled in him, that you trusted him enough to listen and to take an action. I think that's huge. And it's just a huge parenting, kind of just a story of beauty, right? And look how the Lord used him to start the chain of events.
Exactly.
And then, the twofold of this, the second part is that you could see God's hand in it. How much more confident were you in your position all of these years because you knew that you answered a call from him?
Yeah, it was perfectly situated for sure. Yeah. We all have, I think we all have these moments in our life where we can feel God's presence. And that was totally one for me. It was just like here, That's Great. Another one, frankly, is I live in Marietta now because of an online dating service where I met my wife. And it was another time where I think God just said, here, you've gone through a lot of struggles and whatnot in your life. I had gone through the death of a child and had subsequently went through a divorce. I was going through some pretty hard stuff in my life. Both my parents passed away. And I moved completely from Wisconsin to Tennessee. I've never lived in another place and went through some struggles. And then I think that God just said, hey, you know what? You've gone through quite a bit here. Let me just find the perfect person for you. And so I married this lovely woman. Let's see, I should probably get this right. 7-ish years ago.
Hang on.
Right, 7 years ago now. And she has a job where she needs to go to the office every day. So I promised her when we started communicating, if I found the perfect woman that I'd be willing to commute. And so I'm living up to that commitment. Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah. How exciting. 7 years. That's awesome. And what a bliss still, obviously, by the look on your face.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That is awesome. I think it is so important. I mean, you talk about compromise, right? That's an easy compromise for you to make because she matters.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think it's amazing that, again, your eyes are open enough to see that this wasn't something that you did. And it's not necessarily something that you could have earned on your own, right? But a gift And I think if we look at the things that are given in that way, it shifts something in us, right? That we are loved and valued beyond measure.
Absolutely.
I think that's a beautiful thing.
Amen.
I love that. So I'm still going to turn into a sermon.
Yeah,
The
right.
pastor's kid party of
Preach.
But the move from Wisconsin to Tennessee. Okay, so we're taking you back to this time. You're in just a really hard time. Now, did the kids move with you, or are they out of the house at this point?
No, they were pretty much out of the house at that point.
Okay.
And again, and I know we don't, this isn't necessarily a sermon, but when you can feel the hand of God, you take it. And my daughter at that time, I told you we did the podcast trip, the three of us. And it's quite frankly the best memory I have of my daughter. And she passed away in 2011. And she was 25 when she passed away. And I just remembered, the place that we had the best connection in our life, frankly, was here in Chattanooga. And so, again, when my son said, well, let's consider a job change, and we opened and we saw UT Chattanooga, it just all came together. And I knew it was God saying, this is where you should go. This is the next chapter in your life. So it was clear and obvious to me.
I love that, and such good memories.
Yeah. Yeah. And so at that time, my two sons, one was in college and one was just finishing up high school. And so it made the move a little bit easier too, of course. And one has since moved down to not very far. He lives in Tunnel Hill, which is not far away. Yeah. And the other one, his wife just had to move for work, and they worked to Nashville, and they moved to Nashville rather. And so I'm super excited. They're all within a few hours. And we actually hope to do Christmas together at our house this year for the first time. So that'll be cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love seeing the joy that you have and the pride that you have in your family.
Oh, absolutely. I have two wonderful stepdaughters too. I am so blessed. And not that you can ever replace a lost loved one. You can't. But I also feel like God said to me, hey, let me help try and fill this void in your life. And so I have just absolutely the two most amazing stepdaughters. My youngest, Hillary, she's a freshman at Georgia College right now, majoring in graphic design. So she's doing fantastic things. And my oldest stepdaughter, Maya, lives on her own in Brooklyn, New York, and she is a dancer in New York. It's amazing. Yeah, we just saw her. She just recently danced with Lana Del Rey.
Really?
Yeah, at Fenway Park in Boston. And she dances in a couple shows out in New York. And so I just think that, again, the Lord just completely has guided me since that time in my life.
I think it's a minute. Sorry, as I'm like crying over here, wiping my whole day. I'm going to start snotting in a minute.
But and although those dark times happen, I guess the point is that since those dark times, I'm in such a wonderful place now, and it's because I followed what the Lord said to do. He said here, and I said okay. Absolutely.
And if you wouldn't have gone through the dark times, would you have known what the light was? Would it have meant as much to you?
No.
Would you have seen his hand in some of this? Probably not, right? And so, listeners today, goodness, I know that life is incredibly hard. I know that y'all may be facing a financial hardship or the loss of a job or a loved one. There's so much right now, just the cost of living, all of it, and it can weigh heavy. The responsibilities if you're the stay-at-home mom, if you're the dad who is now trying to be Mr. Mom to the kids, there's so much there. But I want you to take courage and have hope, because there is light coming. And of course, if you can look around in the situation and choose to see the hand of God that's reaching for you, He is there, and He is offering the provisions, and you don't have to stay where you are, and it will not last forever. I know it feels like it sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. There's days and there's weeks and months that it feels like there's not going to be an end, but there is. And how sweet it can be when you see that, and the gratitude that you now have for things that may have not, yes, maybe you would have been thankful, but not in the way that you are now,
Right.
because what are some things outside of the move that helped you during your time that maybe would help a listener kind of when you were in the hard place trying to get out of that?
Well, I think faith was definitely one. Family was another. I've found myself building closer bonds with my family members than I had, frankly, when I lived there. I joke with my brother now. I see him more now when I come up to visit than I saw him when I lived a short distance from him, which is sad in a way, but it also helps me to value, those experiences. Friendships too. I had some wonderful friends from Wisconsin, and I've made some great friends down here too, but some of them were just super supportive of me along the way. So no question, faith, family, and friends, right? I mean, it pretty much boils down to that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love that you were surrounded by people who could see you and offer help and assistance, and then to see the resources come and then you saying yes at the end of it, right?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
That's a huge move.
For sure.
A huge move. When you got here and got settled in, did it take you a while, or were you able to kind of find your footing?
It took me a little while. Things are different in the South.
They
for
are.
Sure. Things move at a different pace in the South. I still don't understand some of those things. If I go to the bank in Wisconsin, I'm in and out, and I don't have to have a conversation with someone for 5 or 10 minutes.
No.
But whereas here, you apparently do.
Surprise.
So surprise, yeah.
We're talking.
Exactly. But also, there's a certain. It also is so friendly. You know what I mean? Like, people want to talk to you down here, and maybe there's a coldness besides just the temperature that I wasn't aware of in just coming in and doing your transaction and leaving. And here I feel like you get to know people a little bit more. But yeah, it was a little bit of a culture shock at first, but everyone was so welcoming and just helpful. UTC is a very supportive work environment also. Made some great friends there, and it just all worked out perfectly. I mean, I started out renting and then ended up buying a house and then ended up selling a house to move, but it all worked out perfectly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I love that you were a band teacher, so obviously music is like deeply rooted for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When I originally went to college, I wanted to be a performer was my original goal. And I've been blessed in some ways. I've been able to keep doing that. Not a lot of hobbies, if you will, can you continue to do into your adulthood. And I'm super fortunate. I continue to play now. When I was in college and shortly after, I did some playing. I played at an amusement park a couple different summers. I was fortunate enough to play in some different bands. I've played with Frankie Valli. I've played with the Temptations. So I've played with a few different groups, and and so that was and is a huge part of my life. And I continue to play in some great bands here in Chattanooga. I play at the American Legion on the first Saturday of every month on Ringgold Road. Come on out if you're in town. And I play in Sweet Georgia Sound, which is a big band based out of Chattanooga. And so we have a great time with that, and I can continue to play. Yeah.
I love that, because it's so important to be able to use the talents that you have, and sometimes talents become hobbies, and it's neat to be able to fill that.
Yeah.
That need that you have, and the friendships that you make.
Oh, so many friends have come out of being in different musical groups. That was some of my closest friends, for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And you get to do that together. It's so special.
Yeah. This next semester, it's going to be a unique one. I'm, taking a sabbatical from UTC, so a professional leave for one semester, and going back to be an assistant principal in a Hamilton County school.
How amazing.
I know.
Are you a little bit nervous?
I am a little bit nervous. It's been 11 years since I've been a principal, but I also realize that I'm preparing people for a job that I haven't done now for 11 years. And so I want to make sure,
take your own notes.
Exactly. And so the whole idea is just to go back in and learn and see what what still applies, what doesn't apply, what do I need to update, and everything like that. And it made me think of it because of the friendships. I'm going to be living with one of my friends from Sweet Georgia Sound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he has like a mother-in-law suite in his house, so he's taking me in.
And now it's a Barry-in-law suite.
Exactly, a Barry-in-law suite for the second semester. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Excited but nervous.
And I love that you have got this just happiness about you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really excited to experience what that will be like for you, or see that experience. And you're right. You have this great take of, hey, what am I teaching that still is applicable? What's not? How can we grow? And I think that's such an amazing way to walk into this new role.
Yeah.
Instead of going in like, these are my rules and we're sticking into them, and let's just go in and kind of feel it out and figure it out from there. I think that's great.
Yeah. And I was a principal in a rural school in Wisconsin. And I don't know if you've ever been to Wisconsin or not, but in the rural areas of Wisconsin, it's not very diverse. And so, I mean, I was a principal for 14 years, and I can count on one hand the students of color I've had as a principal. Sure.
Wow.
And so I also am looking forward to some diversity. I've asked Hamilton County to please place me in a school that is more diverse,
of course.
because I also want to gain some experience and some knowledge in schools that have, different challenges, different needs than a school in rural Wisconsin had.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And that's what I love about Hamilton County, is that you are going to find diversity in really any school that you go to. I love that. And my youngest son goes to East Brainerd Elementary. The last time that we did some kind of survey, 57 different languages spoken within our school.
Isn't that crazy?
And how amazing that my child gets to be a part of this, learn from people of different backgrounds and cultures and transplants, right? People that have come, had some kids in his class from Germany, like just amazing opportunity for him. And all of that builds, right? It builds their character, and they can learn and grow from that. And so I think it's not only an amazing thing within Chattanooga, but an amazing thing that you will experience. You will get to see that, and I think it will help you grow and then grow the curriculum to continue to help other people in your role at UTC.
Absolutely.
That's
the
great.
Hope, for sure.
Absolutely. Barry, I know that we had briefly talked about the transition. If one of our listeners is getting ready to move or has moved to a new community, what is something that you could maybe advise them to do to maybe get plugged in the community or maybe find friends a little quicker? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one step that I took. When I moved here, I told you I did it without my family. I had no friends in the area or whatever. But on a whim, I saw a flyer for, it was a service to basically help mentor youth in the schools. And I said to myself, I've got some time in the evenings to do that. So I went ahead and signed up. And I signed up to mentor a young man at Brainerd High School in Chattanooga about 10 years ago now. And I'm so glad that I did, because he's become like a son to me. But, it started out where the requirements of the program were, get together once a month and do something. It was called Take 12, I think was the program. And that turned into, twice a month, then every week, and it's continued now to where I said, this young man, his name is Jalen, and he stood up in our wedding with my two sons. So it was Caleb, Marcus, and Jalen were the three guys that stood up in our wedding. Yeah. And
they get along pretty well?
Oh, absolutely. Oh. Yeah, absolutely. Very well. Now, Jalen's led an interesting life, which is, kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about today. What I did want to get into a foundation that we started, and which he kind of led me along the way to develop a foundation. But whenever you want to talk about that, you let me know, and I'll be able to do that.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Go for it. Tell us about this nonprofit that you created.
I would love to. So I mentioned Jalen, and basically he's been like a son to me, and he's from Chattanooga. And led a very different life than I did. He's an African-American young man, grew up in kind of inner city, if you will, Chattanooga. And I mentioned I'm from rural Wisconsin, right? And so it's so funny because Jalen credits me for helping him in a lot of ways, and I credit him for helping me in a lot of ways, because there are so many things that I had no clue about, and he's been so helpful to me. But fast forward a few years, and this last year in January, he was living in Chattanooga. I was living in Marietta, and I sent him a Facebook message on a Sunday night and just said, "Hey, how you doing tonight?" And he messaged me back and he said, "Not good. I got put out of my apartment." And he was living with an uncle, I think it was. And his uncle basically said, if you're not paying rent, you're not staying, something like that. And put him, and it was 30 degrees in Chattanooga that night. And so I ended up, it was, 10:30, 11 at night. And I ended up texting my son, who lives in Tunnel Hill. And I said, "Hey, could you go pick up Jalen and just get him to a hotel tonight, and we'll cover that." And long story short, he ended up moving in with us then in January in Marietta, and we were so glad that he did. And so we really had an opportunity for us to sit down and talk about direction in his life and what he wanted to do with his life and where he had wanted to go. And ultimately, we ended up with him joining the military. And he made that commitment to join the military.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. And so we said, all right, and we brought him to the Chattanooga East recruiting office and signed him up, and they were wonderful to work with, but they also said, here are some of the steps that need to be taken before you can enlist.
Hang on. There's steps that have to be taken before
Absolutely,
you can.
there are.
I thought it was just signing up.
You would like to think that, but no.
Wow.
So Jalen hadn't graduated from high school, and you have to have a high school or a GED, a diploma or a GED. And so it was the first thing he needed to do. So we needed to take care of that. Then there are physicals. You need to take the ASVAB, which of course you want to study for, and all of those things. Then you need to do the physicals, the eye exam. And what was really eye-opening to me, Heather, was all of the steps that need to be taken before you're eligible to enlist in the armed forces, and frankly, the number of those that took money, that you need money in order to do them.
All of them.
Yeah,
right?
most of them did. Wow. And of course, it was my honor to be able to financially support him as he went through that process. But it was just so eye-opening to me. I mean, the simplest thing. So you need to be able to pass a vision test in order to be in the military. Right. Well, we had bought him glasses when he was in high school. They got broken. He didn't have the money to buy new glasses. So he couldn't see well enough to pass the test. So we needed to go out and get him glasses. That was one of the first things we needed. You can't study for a test or do anything unless you can see. So that costs money. And then you need to do the GED prep materials and the ASVAB prep materials. Frankly, you need to be able to communicate with the recruiter and other people to do those things. And if you don't have a working cell phone with a cell phone plan, you can't do that. So we needed to go out and get a track phone. Something as simple as going to Walmart and getting a track phone and getting some minutes on it so that you can communicate. You need to have a bank account. The Army's going to pay you. The military is going to pay you. You have to have a bank account. Well, what do you need to open a bank account? Money. It turns out you have to have some money to put into it. A social security card, just all of those things that we don't think about sometimes. But we found out that poverty can be a barrier to serving in the military. And although there are some ways in the military that you can get reimbursed and things like that, what the recruiter told me was, with all the red tape, they've never done it. They don't even try and do those things. And so when I had a heart-to-heart with one of the recruiters, I said, well, what happens with some of these people when they come in and the funds aren't there? The recruiter admitted, he said, sometimes we just pay for it out of pocket if it's something small. But if it's something big, they get turned away.
And Barry, we have young men, maybe even women. I know we're talking about Jalen, so I'm not excluding them, the thought. Yeah. But that want to serve. They have a desire to go and to serve. And yet we're not letting them because of all of this. And how many people don't have a Barry to step in their corner?
Exactly. exactly. Yeah. And so basically after meeting with the recruiter, I set out and just said, well, what if we could find a way that we could support some of these people who want to enlist, but are having difficulty financially? And the recruiter said that would be fantastic. Wow. And so we just kind of took off with it. And so step one was, well, how can we make this a non-profitable organization so that people can donate to it and have it be tax deductible? And so I thought, well, we need to form a 501c3, right? Well, the first thing you need to do that is to be able to spend some money to form the tax deductible organization. And one of the people in, I think it was the Legionnaires band that I play in out at the Legion, said, why don't you couple with the American Legion? And see, because they're already a tax deductible. They're a 501c19 organization. And I was lucky enough to find the Scenic City Heroes, which is American Legion Post 291 out of Chattanooga here. And together with the Scenic City Heroes Post 291 and the recruiting office, and I represent UTC in the collaboration, we formed this Bridge to Service Foundation, which we launched in October of this year.
It's a baby.
It's a baby. But we've already raised some funds, and we're already on track to start helping some individuals out. And I really want to stress that these are not people who come into the recruiting office asking for money.
Right.
They're coming into the recruiting office asking to serve their country. And their country is saying, yeah, we want you, but do this, and this first, but not until this. And so now we want to remove that barrier. We want to take that barrier down. And if you need to take a vision test, if you need to have a tattoo removed from your face or something as simple as that, there's a fund now that can help these people who want to serve their country and just help them enlist. And the best part of the story, Heather, I don't want to, skip to the ending or anything, but the best part of the story is this. Jalen went on to do his basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and did amazing, graduated with honors in the top 10%. From
I
there,
know you're so
I am
proud.
You can see
That's
it.
amazing.
I know. And from there, he went to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And now he just shipped out this last month. He got a short break where he came back home to visit, but now he just shipped out, and he is in Landstuhl, Germany, working at a hospital there. His job in the United States Army is 68 X-ray, which is behavioral health specialist. So now this young man who went through some pretty, horrific things in his life, absolutely, his job is helping people who have mental health issues, problems with substance abuse, who are in the service. When they come in, the very first person they'll see is Jalen, and he helps them with a treatment plan and helps get these people help. So it's just it's a beautiful story. It really is.
And what a great position for him to be in, because he does understand it, because he's seen this and he's lived this. Absolutely. And there's no better way than with someone with empathy and understanding.
Absolutely. And he has such a big heart. He has such a big heart. And the Army noticed that too. So
I love that. I love that you didn't just stop at helping Jalen. You could have. Most people would have, right? But you took the initiative to figure out how to help more people within our community, in the Chattanooga community, to be able to act on the passion that they have. And for some of these kids, right, like Jalen, like his position was, this is the best option for their future. This gives them the structure, it gives them the job, it gives them the benefits, all of that. Because otherwise, could they end up on the streets, or would they maybe not feel like they have the confidence to do something? Who knows? But I couldn't imagine them being prevented from being able to serve in this way and having the future that the armed services could give them. So I'm so grateful to know you, and I'm so grateful that you did take the initiative and that you've seen it through, right? Even if there was red tape, even if there was a corner that you had to figure out a way to go through, like you did it. I don't know how you would have gone through a corner that didn't work, but you know what I mean.
100%. Yeah. And there have been people, like I said, to help along the way.
It's great.
Commander Tommy with the Scenic City Heroes. I mean, they were so open. I remember presenting at their American Legion meeting and sharing the idea with them, and they voted on it, and it was unanimous. Everyone voted to
they
approve.
all have a heart to help.
They all have a heart to help. And the first donation, by the way, to the foundation came from the Scenic City Heroes. They were the first donation to the foundation. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that they put their money where their mouth was, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Now, if our listeners are hearing this, like, man, we want to help. I know you talked about you're already gathering funds and you're fixing to be able to start helping.
Yep.
What steps do they take?
I guess the most important step would be to go to bridgetoservice.org, bridgetoservice.org. There they can find more information. My oldest son, I mentioned, Caleb, he is a web designer, and he, donated all of his time to one, he's also a graphic designer. So he built this beautiful logo and he built this beautiful website, and has it all set up where someone can make a donation, and they'll receive communication back and a receipt and everything like that. And with most people, frankly, I try and make a personal contact with them too and thank them if I at all can for their donation. And as we move forward, the hope is to be able to share with people who donate kind of a newsletter and be able to say, these are some of the people we've helped, and here are some of the things that they're doing now.
So they can see how far their money went.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And their donation. I'm grateful that Caleb was able to create that for you and build that so that we're able to donate really easily, right?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Great. Now, do you take anything outside of the website? Like if somebody was in Chattanooga?
I will literally take the money out of your hand,
okay,
Heather,
good.
right now. Absolutely, for sure.
That is perfect.
No, and on the website, you can send a check. We'll take cash. We can write receipts too. But absolutely, the website, of course, is the easiest way to do it. But we'll absolutely take checks. Basically, you send those checks to the American Legion Post 291 here in Chattanooga. They process it. Like I said, the Bridge to Service Foundation is just a component of the American Legion Post 291. So we have their oversight. They have their treasurer. We have the reports to make sure, I want everyone to know that they can donate with confidence, because 100% of their donations goes to help these people. There are no administrative fees at all. It all goes to help individuals who want to serve their country.
I love that. And I love that we are now in November, which, holy cow, this year has gone. But what are we coming up on?
Veterans Day.
End of year giving too, right?
Yeah.
And Veterans Day. But end of year giving. So
sure.
if you are someone who would love to give to a really, really great cause and help people and these men and women that are in this community be able to serve and have this fantastic future, then definitely go to bridgetoservice.org to find out more information. Now, you did mention Veterans Day. I didn't mean to skip over it like it didn't matter. I was just excited about getting donations for all, to help more people in the community. What is a way that you honor people on Veterans Day?
Well, it's actually interesting that you asked that. So I don't think I've told you this, but my father's birthday also is November 11th.
Really?
And my father passed away in 2011. But my dad was a Korean War veteran. He was also the commander of the American Legion Post in the small town in Wisconsin in which I grew up, Cameron, Wisconsin. And so one of the things that I've personally done on Veterans Day thousands of times is I play taps. I'm a trumpet player. The last few years, we've done a program at UTC where we do taps all through the university. So we've had, I want to say, as many as 30 trumpet players line up all through the university. It's called the TAPS Project, where we do that. But my dad being an American Legion commander and me being a trumpet player, I was taken by the hand to every military funeral as a child. And I've played taps so many times. Of course, the most tear-jerking was my own father's.
Of course.
So funeral. But that's one of the ways that I honor veterans. And I think that this foundation, in a way, is something that, as my father looks down, I think he's proud of too.
I would tell you that he is. It's not I think he is. He is.
Yeah.
So that's amazing how it comes together.
He was proud of his service, and just knowing that I'm helping other individuals, that this foundation is, I know that he would be proud of that.
That's amazing. And I love how that ties in, that you get to, a piece of this is honoring him, and then American Legion, here we are again,
exactly.
Right? And that's just absolutely fantastic. Barry, it's been just a joy to sit with you, and an honor to hear about not only all that you have done and have accomplished, but Jalen's story, and not only how you and your family were able to step in and help, but how so much more has been created because of this, and we're able to help so many other people like Jalen succeed and have this future. Thank you so, so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for helping me to get the message out there about the foundation. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure we have all of the information in the show notes as well, so people are able to find y'all. And now, do y'all have social media at all?
We do not currently.
Okay.
No, but that's a piece, again, where I'll go to my son and say, hey, it's about time we need to do this. I just haven't gotten up the courage to tell him I need one more thing just yet. But I'm sure he will be happy to donate that.
I'm sure he will. Hey, Caleb.
Exactly. My new social media director.
That's great.
Sure.
That's great. So we'll definitely put the website below. Barry, I would love to know, I know we've just talked about your daddy, and I know we've talked about a lot of just very precious things during this time, but what do you, Barry, find most precious?
You know, Heather, I think in as much as I hold, of course, my family dear and everything, I think that which I hold and believe is the most precious are the memories of the loved ones, in particular who I've lost. So I mentioned earlier, I lost my father and my mother. I lost a daughter. I lost my brother Dale when he was 30 back in 93. And we don't realize a lot of the time, you know, when we're doing our activities with our family, that we're in the middle of making a memory.
You are, yeah.
And it's those memories now that you have to look back on, cling to, and just cherish. And so what I cherish and find most precious are the memories that I've had with my loved ones.
I love that memories can't ever die, right? They're
Exactly.
always with us. We can always go down memory lane. But also know how hard it is, how hard grief is. So I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
That you have lost so many. I know that's incredibly difficult. And I'm so grateful for the man you are because of who they were, right? And how they shaped your character.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. Barry, thank you so much for being so vulnerable with us and being willing to share not only where you've been, but kind of where you're going with this Bridge to Service. I'm so grateful that you have created this, and just for who you are and what you mean to this community.
Thank you, Heather.
Absolutely. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you found such encouragement from listening to Barry and just the stories that we were able to share in our conversation today. If you are going through a hard time, know that you are seen and valued and loved. I hope that you will be able to find your people, your community, your kind of inner circle that can help lift you up and be there for you in the ways that you need. Y'all, as you continue to journey through your week, I truly hope that you will choose to be kind, choose to be grateful, and choose to encourage. And we're going to see you back next week for another episode of Heather's Most Precious. Bye, y'all.
Heather's Most Precious is brought to you with love by the Hendrickson Agency, an insurance agency serving all of Georgia and Tennessee. The Hendrickson Agency, properly protecting your most precious possessions. Support for Heather's Most Precious is provided by Study.com, which offers SAT and ACT study materials and even has resources for AP and college credit courses. Listeners of Heather's Most Precious get 30% off their first 3 months of any subscription level with offer code PRECIOUS. Just go to Study.com and use offer code PRECIOUS at checkout. Heather's Most Precious is produced by Chattanooga Podcast Studios and is part of the Podnooga Network. Find out more at ChattanoogaPodcastStudios.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back soon with another episode of Heather's Most Precious.